Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective.
Hey there, everyone. Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. Hope you're doing well on this Monday. Did you have a good 4th of July? Did it happen for you? Did you drink a lot of beer? Did you shoot some fireworks off and keep all your fingers? Did you do something cool like I did here? That's me for those of you looking on the screen. That's actually me laying down on the field at Oracle Park. You know, that's how I roll sometimes. Not from this past weekend. It's from a while ago. But anyway, hope you had a good weekend. I'm Ray Flowers, FantasyGuru.com. You can follow me on Twitter, X, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, all of those places at the Ray Flowers. You can find me here on the show Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Why are you not here, Ray, on Wednesdays when Justin Fensterman is here? Well, that's because I'm with Jeff Mans on the Elite Sports Show. Note, some changes on SiriusXM this week. Number one, the Elite Sports Game Time Show with Justin and I is now over. We'll be back. We'll be on hiatus, as they call it in the radio biz. Returning next year. They're going to a more full-time football lineup. So Justin and I will be back, or at least the show will be back hopefully next year. Jeff's show, instead of 3 to 6 Eastern, the Elite Sports Show, 5 days a week, staying, nothing's changing there, but it's shifting an hour earlier. So the Elite Sports Game Time Show with Jeff Mans will now be on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio Monday through Friday, 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So on Wednesdays, you can hear me there, 2 to 5. What are we talking about here on the show? We got a lot to talk about here on the show. Thanks for joining us, by the way. But before we get to what we can talk about on the show, it's drafters time. For those of you doing fantasy football, we've been talking about this. It says through the next 10 days. It's much less than this now. It's probably 5 or 6 days. I'll probably go through the end of the week, I would assume. For those of you that haven't signed up for drafters and their best ball tournament, go to drafters.com/refer/elite, drafters.com/refer/elite. And if you've never signed up for them and you use that link, you can get up to a $500 bonus match. So if you put $400 into play in their best ball tournament, you get an extra $400. Damn good deal. And for those of you that have already signed up with drafters, an even better deal, because most organizations don't give that re-up or bonus anymore. If you go there and use the promo code Elite Reload, that's Elite Reload, you get a 20% match. So check that out over at drafters.com. Remember, you go to fantasyguru.com, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner of the page, get access to all of our best ball coverage, ostensibly from Tyler Beaker. He's got best ball targets, strategies about best ball, rankings, all of that for the drafters.com format. So check that out. Here are the discounts. Elite Reload for reloading. For those of you who never signed up before, drafters.com/refer/elite. And then go over to fantasyguru.com and read the articles so that you can learn how to best have success in the Drafters Best Ball Tournament. For those people in Scott Fishbowl, by the way, it starts today. For the majority of people, there were already some live drafts, but for the majority of people, good luck with that. Here is the update plan for today. We just talked about drafters. We don't need to do it again, though. If you want to do it again, happy to share that information with you again. So just let me know. We're going to talk about pitching, and we got some bad news coming down the pipe here. And this is not unexpected news. In fact, this is news that has been predicted, projected, discussed here on this show and in articles over at fantasyguru.com. But workload concerns, we'll talk about in a minute. Shane Bieber, Emmet, Sheehan, Cole Ragans, Brandon Woodruff returned. How'd he look? Chad Patrick, Andrew Vaughn, Jack Caglianone, Corbin, Carroll, Brady House. And then in about 20 minutes or so, we'll talk some waiver wires. We do this every Monday. It's the one show of the week for those of you that are new. It's the one show of the week where it's just me hosting. We don't have a guest on. The guests all join about 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, Tuesday through Thursday. On Mondays, I go by myself for the entirety of the show, and we talk all baseball. The rest of the week, it's half baseball, half football. Mondays is baseball only. We'll review the FSGA, the LABR, and the Tout Wars FAAB runs from this previous weekend. All right, let's go and start talking about baseball's got a real problem. Fantasy baseball's got a problem. We've talked about that for years here. Baseball's got a problem too. And this is getting to the point where we're going to give a prime example of what I'm talking about. Teams are doing things to win games, but teams are not doing things to sell the sport. Teams are doing things to win games. They're not doing things for the fans. And that might end up being a problem. We'll see. But Drew Rasmussen, who reported after his last outing when he threw like 62 pitches, we reported what Mark Tompkins said, which was, you know, this guy's had all kinds of injuries, he's had all kinds of surgeries. He's only going to throw 150 innings this year. And with 97 innings in the tank, He's just not going to keep this up. And there's a lot of pitchers in the second half that we're going to see this with. In the case of Rasmussen, who, let's be very clear about Rasmussen. Rasmussen has been terrific. He hasn't been good. He's been terrific. Through 18 starts, he has a 2.8 ERA and a 1.01 whip. You can make the argument, convincingly, I think, that he's been a top 10 starting pitcher in the American League. Maybe top 15. But he's been one of the better starting pitchers in the American League. But he's up to 89 innings pitched. I think I said 97 earlier, I meant 87. He's up to 89 innings pitched at this point, and he's only got 150 for the season. So what did the team do yesterday? They had Rasmussen start the game, then they brought in Joe Boyle. One-off? No, it's not a one-off. That's the new plan for the Rays. What we're hearing from Mark Tompkins is that the team intends to continue using Rasmussen and Joe Boyle in tandem together. If they do the plan, what we saw yesterday, Drew Rasmussen is now borderline useless in fantasy, because if they're going to limit him to 65 pitches a game, he's not getting through 5 innings. On a rare occasion, he can. He doesn't beat himself with the walk, but if he's throwing 65 pitches as the starting pitcher, he's not going 5 innings. Joe Boyle, on the other hand, might start picking up a bunch of cheap victories for going 3 2/3 innings if he's that second pitcher. Well, look at Joe Boyle. He was added in a bunch of the leagues here over the weekend. People getting ahead of this. But this is, and again, we'll follow this story. But according to Mark Tompkins, who's covered the team for years, who knows a lot better than any of us, the tandem thing, Boyle and Rasmussen, is where it's at. Rasmussen apparently, as the starter, loses all fantasy value because, 4 innings is great, but if he has no chance at a victory, Joe Boyle, on the other hand, Joe Boyle's got one of the biggest arms in baseball. He came over from the organization, the athletics organization, excuse me. He is hoping to become, like Dylan Cease, right? A guy that when he's on you can't hit. When he's off, he struggles a little bit with the walks. The pitch count gets up. He doesn't go deep into games. So Boyle is a tandem reliever in that second guy, the bulk reliever, if you will. Pretty good use of his skill set, I would think. He's added a splitter this year, Joe Boyle has, which is really exciting because his ground ball rate has shot up through the air. I think his ground ball rate's approaching 50%, or maybe it's just past 50%. I'm trying to remember. Like 50% down at the minor league level. With his ability to miss bats, and now that splitter getting the ball on the ground instead of in the air. So a lot to like with Joe Boyle. We'll continue to monitor this one. But yeah, as Kyle says here, sad to hear Rasmussen has been solid for me. He's been solid for everyone, Kyle. And again, this is why I've said this many times, and people laugh at me. I float the idea of offense-only leagues. I float the idea of half-season leagues. I mean, because if you're in a half-season league, what do, right? You've used Drew Rasmussen. He helped you win a championship in the first half. In the second half, you just undraft him, right? Versus now having Drew Rasmussen and being stuck in this limbo land where there's nowhere for you to really go on the waiver wire because there's nothing good on the waiver wire, right? Certainly not finding a guy with a 2.80 ERA and a 1 whip on the waiver wire. Maybe we'll do a little bit more of that half-season stuff next year. We talked about it a lot. Hopefully we can make it come to fruition. Angelo says, I like good bulk relievers. They don't count against the weekly pitcher start limit. That is also true. And that is also why weekly starter limits is a freaking horrible setup. Because I get this question asked to me all preseason every year, which starting pitchers qualify at RP? Number one, as I've said over and over again, all pitcher spots should just be pitcher spots. If you want to use all relievers, you want to use all starters, have at it. League should not have RP-SP designation, just be pitcher spot. I haven't done a league with the RP-SP thing in ever. Like, that's just not how any of the leagues that I'm in operate, and they're not how your league should operate. Secondly, gaming the system is, again, why I have such a huge problem with the head-to-head. Because Angela's totally right. You can use a guy like Joe Boyle as a bulk reliever. He doesn't count, even though he's throwing 4 or 5 minutes. Bad setup. But hey, take advantage of it if you're in it. Kyle said, time to buckle down. Most of my league members have already shifted to NFL. And that's another reason why the half-season league, and I run polls on this every year, and everyone's like, There's another reason why I think the half-season leagues are good. And for those people that don't know what I'm talking about, we play until the All-Star break for the first half, and then from the All-Star break on, we play the second half season. So all those guys that, crushed your team in the first half, you got 10 guys on the injury list right now, you just draft a new team in the second half, right? You don't draft Drew Rasmussen as we're talking about, right? It's a thing to think about in the future. Chris says, morning, I would love to play half-season league. Hopefully they can be created next season. Yeah, we have talked to providers, and we've talked to providers about doing this because we've had this idea for years at fantasyguru.com. We have to have somebody create the game for us, right? Providers are slow to change, and you probably know that if you utilize these providers. Like some of the settings there they seem like they haven't changed in a decade, right? So we will push for it. I think it's, especially if this becomes what the Rays are doing, becomes more of the norm, and I think it probably will. It's going to be a good idea to do that starting in 2026. How about this one? Ranger Suarez, let's go on to that. Ranger Suarez pulled the hook, or he was pulled after 5 innings of one-run baseball. And he'd thrown 80 pitches. And the press said, what's going on? And the manager said it was designed. He had an 85 pitch limit today because he'd been throwing a lot of 90 plus out. So now we're getting guys proactively pulled like Ranger Suarez, not because they're struggling, not because they're pitching poorly, but because that's just what we're going to let the guy do today. I mean, for those of you wondering what the silence is, I'm holding my hands in the air going, This is baseball, and this is what I'm talking about with baseball. Baseball is these teams are trying to win games, but they're not doing what's good for the fans. Fans don't want to come to a game and see 7 pitchers when their team gives up 4 runs. They don't want to see that. They don't want to see when I was a kid, that's 100 years ago, okay. But when I was a kid, you would look at the schedule and you would say to yourself, okay, let's plan out when is I don't know, when is Dwight Gooden going to pitch? The Mets are coming into town here in a couple of weeks. When is this? He'll be pitching Friday. Let's buy tickets for the Friday game. That's what we do, right? Now teams willy-nilly change their rotations in the middle of the week. They do this tandem starter thing out of nowhere. They pull a pitcher like Ranger Suarez out of nowhere. Sports, ultimately, if you're a real baseball fan, you don't care who's pitching. If you're a real fan of the team, you don't care who's pitching. But those fans that are kind of on the periphery, they don't want to see 7 pitchers in the game. They don't want to see that. They don't want to see the starting pitcher who's throwing a shutout get pulled from a game. They don't want to see that. They don't. You're not expanding or growing the sport by doing that. You know, the NFL doesn't play guys in the first half and then sit them in the second half of games. Do that. Now, basketball's got its own issues because they'll have guys just randomly sit out games. So they're battling it too. But this is just bad for baseball. And I don't want to see the game of baseball struggle like the game of fantasy baseball is struggling. I've heard a couple people in Discord over the weekend at fantasyguru.com saying that baseball needs to be more like the Savannah Bananas. Absolutely does not. 100% does not. I don't think that is the answer at all. Now, is there a place for the Savannah Bananas? Absolutely. Do fans love that? Yes. But I don't need some dude running around with a cape. I'm not paying $175 for my ticket so I can watch some dude running around in a cape catching a ball behind his back. That's me. If that's what you folks want, I mean, maybe that's the way the game goes. Kind of doubt it. But there's definitely a place for that. But I don't think it's for Major League Baseball. I think Major League Baseball is in a real quandary here because how do you tell a team, and I'd be open to suggestions here because I don't have an answer. How do you tell a team, yeah, I know you're trying to win, but you can't do A or B? Like your starting pitcher has to go 5 innings or you get penalized. Like, how do you legislate? I don't know. Kyle said, why would you want to go see a game? A lot of sports are dealing with this anyway because you go to any sporting event and the vibe and the feel, it's all great, right? But at the same time, you got to wait in line for a bathroom. You got drunk people throwing up. You're bumping into people. Everyone's got a 75-inch TV or bigger now at home, right? Like, maybe just watching at home ain't that bad. By the way, I'm going to the Giants game on Friday. Really looking forward to that. I'll have more details on that. But my significant other, she's fancy pants, and she got us an invite. I think we're going to someplace pretty special at Oracle Park. So I'll share some more information on that if it indeed does come to fruition, which I think it will. All right, let's move on. But yeah, Major League Baseball's got to do something. This was interesting and funny, so let's take it from the serious conversation to some laughter. We shouldn't be laughing when a guy gets hurt. But did you see the news with Yimi Garcia that he sprained his ankle when he got into one of the hot cold tubs, and now he's going on the injury list? Like, hey, man, I slipped one time. I've never hurt myself getting in or out of the shower. I did slip one time, so now I'm very cautious because it's like, oh, put your hand on the sink or put your hand on, let's balance ourselves a little bit. So I'm not saying this doesn't happen, but a pro athlete slips getting into a bathtub, going on the injury list with a sprained ankle. Kind of rough. Shane Bieber coming back from the elbow injury, who's had a little bit of a setback here, did face minor league batters over the weekend, which was good. So, we're moving in the right direction with Bieber. At this point, it still seems like August would be the best case scenario, second half of August. It's kind of where we're at with Shane Bieber. So I know a lot of people have been holding on to Bieber and hoping that we'll get a nice return here. So, I don't know if you're going to get a nice return, but he is trending in the right direction now. Again, we'll hopefully see him a month and a half from now-ish. We'll see. You never know, right? Maybe he surprises, but at least he's moving in the right direction here. Now, another pitcher that's here right now, so let's talk about him directly. Emmet Sheehan held the Astros to 1 run over 5 innings and pitched very, very well yesterday. Sheehan himself coming back from surgery. People are getting excited and let's pick him up short term. Yes, we're picking up Emmet Sheehan short term. We'll see how this goes. But the problem is Tyler Glasnow is supposed to return this week. That's what we're hearing, right? And then Blake Snell is probably 2.5 weeks away, 2 weeks away. So what are we getting out of Sheehan? We got an all-star break in there too, right? So what are we getting out of Sheehan? 2 starts. So if you're adding Sheehan, understand what you're adding. Realize that, it's unlikely that Sheehan's making 10, 12 starts in the second half of the season. It's very unlikely that's going to happen. It always could. You never know. Could. Kershaw could get hurt and all that stuff. But it's unlikely he's making double-digit starts the rest of the way. So be cautious with your investment with Sheehan, who you're dropping to add Sheehan. And realize that he also is coming back from injury. So, there's workload issues there for him potentially too. But a very good effort against the Astros. And again, you want to pick him up short term, totally fine with that. But just be cautious with the move you're making. Cole Ragans is coming back from a shoulder injury. He's expected to throw today. So that's good news. He's now hopeful of being back 5 weeks, 6 weeks from now, kind of that same time frame as Shane Bieber, like mid-August, maybe. Like, we'll see. We don't know. You never know, but he has that rotator cuff strain. He's been on the shelf DL, like 3 weeks plus here, hasn't done anything. So he's just starting to throw. So they got to ramp everything back up. They got to see how he's doing. He's got to pass all these, best case scenario, maybe early August, best case. I don't think that's very likely, though. It's probably more mid-August. So Ragans, let's just hope that, over the next couple of weeks, as he continues to throw more aggressively, that he doesn't have any more setbacks with that shoulder. Brandon Woodruff has returned from his shoulder injury. Unfortunately, Chad Patrick was demoted as, we talked about this a lot with the Brewers and where's everyone going to fit in the rotation. And Chad Patrick, who has in some ways saved the Brewers because he's pitched very well. He's in some ways saved some of you probably in fantasy because he's pitched very well. Was sent back to AAA. And I don't know when we see him again. We don't know when we're going to see Henderson again. We don't know, we don't know if they're going to make a trade. They got Tobias Myers down in the minor leagues too. They could trade Jose Quintana. The Brewers could. So this Brewers situation is very up in the air. And their run up to the trade deadline, there's even some rumors that, Freddie Peralta could be traded. So Chad Patrick, for those of you like in 14, 15 team leagues, I'm not against holding on to him for a little bit to see. For those of you in shallower leagues or head-to-head leagues, I think it's safe to move on. We'll probably being almost certainly, see Chad Patrick starting again for the Brewers at some point in the near future here. When is that though? Is that August? Is it they're going to bring him up and put him down, use him as a reliever? It's just very unclear how he's going to operate for now. Back to Woodruff, who can be added across the land if he hasn't been. Allowed 1 run over 6 innings over the weekend. His fastball, which used to be about 95, 96 prior to the injury to his shoulder, yesterday was about 93. So that's a significant step down. So it's hard to get excited about Woodruff being a big-time strikeout arm with 2 miles an hour velocity less than he had prior to the injury. That said, he was very effective yesterday, and it's very reasonable to think that he'll be very effective moving forward. His slider curveball combo that he used to throw is now more cutter sweeper. And there's been some talk about, his velocity's down a little bit, so let's get things that play off that velocity a little bit better, more sweeper cutter stuff. So that's the pitch mix change that it seems like he made, at least he did yesterday. We'll continue to follow that. Woodruff is in play to be added, like I said, in the mixed league. He's got a better runway than Emmet Sheehan, as an example. Same time, he's coming back from injury. He's had setbacks. A long way has Woodruff. So it's unclear if he's just going to go out and rip off 5 and a third innings, 6 and a third inning starts, start after start the rest of the way. But cautious optimism, I think, is a good way to speak about Brandon Woodruff. Speaking of the Brewers, let's talk a little offense before we talk some waiver wire, because I spent too much time talking about my complaints about baseball. Apologies. Andrew Vaughn is being promoted. Rhys Hoskins going to the injury list with a thumb issue. Andrew Vaughn's going to come up. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, Vaughn was traded to the Brewers, if you missed that a while ago. 15 games at AAA. Hitting 250, but driven in 16 runs. So he's got an RBI a game down on the farm. He's got an OPS about 840. He can do a very good impersonation of Rhys Hoskins, maybe a little bit more batting average, slightly less power, but the Brewers themselves don't figure to struggle too much there. Vaughn, can you add him? I mean, am I expecting him to produce the numbers he posted down at AAA in the big leagues? No. Teams find a way to have guys in the lineup if they hit. We know that. But once Rhys Hoskins is back, you have to think he's still the guy ahead of Andrew Vaughn. Vaughn's at that crossroads of his career. Is he going to make it or not? And the answer is we just don't know. All right. Let's talk about another young hitter. Jack Caglianone struck out twice yesterday. And again, this is just the latest example, and it happens every year, and it will continue to happen every year. And everything I'm about to say will be ignored, as it has been every year. Depending upon rookies is a difficult scenario. I've got Jordan Lawler, and I think the FSGA league. I thought by now he'd be up and starting at the big league level. There's been opportunities for him to start at the big league level. Hasn't happened. Now he's dealing with another hamstring injury, and it's like, when are we going to see him? Late August? Like, Jordan Lawler is going to be a star in this league. But I basically, for half a year, burned a roster spot and got nothing out of it. I got 25 at bats where he had 4 hits. Like, I got nothing out of it. Jack Caglianone was one of the guys that we hadn't seen kind of on that later end of the youngsters that were promoted. And everyone got really excited about him because of his skills, because of his future outlook. And he's awful right now. He's just, I think he's like 3 for 45 or something like that. He's awful right now. He's hitting 140. He's got a 440 OPS. And, we're at the point now, AL only leagues, sure, you're holding on to him. Mixed leagues, it's been 30 games, but as we've talked about it, let's think back to the season. We would say you got to give a guy at least a month, at least wait until May 1st so he gets 100 plate appearances to decide. We're at 115 plate appearances with Jack Caglianone, and he's batting 150 with a 440 OPS. And I think a little more disturbing than that is the fact that this guy who's 6'5", 250, who can absolutely power the baseball, got an exit velocity of 89 miles an hour. That's league average, basically. Very disappointing. His strikeout rate's basically league average. So again, not crazy here. But his isolated power mark is 93. The league average is 165, something like that. So he's just not driving the baseball. And he's got a 51% ground ball rate because his launch angle is under 6%. So can't tell you to hold on to Caglianone at this point. It depends what direction, what pivot you're making, all that kind of stuff. But rough going. Corbin Carroll, as Kyle said there, struck out 4 times yesterday against the Royals with the golden sombrero. He's just back from injury. He made this, and again, Kyle, I get your point here, but let's be happy he's back. Like, he hurt his wrist, had the chip fracture. We thought he was going to miss 6 weeks or something like that. He returned way sooner than anyone thought, way quicker, like by weeks. So we'll be positive about him. He's 0 for 9 since his return, and it's Corbin Carroll, though. If I had him on my team, and I don't have him on any team this year, I'm starting him this week. I'll take the risk. He's certainly a potential dynamic option, of course. Mark P says, I'm not worried about Cags. Rookies need 250 at-bats to even de-thaw. If we're sitting here a year from now, yes. Well, to be fair, Mark, I think all players need more than 250. They need the whole season. So don't mistake what I said previously. I'm saying if we're talking about 2025 fantasy baseball, we got to move on. I'm not talking about if you have him in a keeper or dynasty. That's totally different. Yeah, totally different. And I'm not saying at all that I've made a determination on him. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying that we've seen enough here, and there's enough wonkiness in his game to date that we got to make moves. Most of you play head-to-head leagues. I don't want to play head-to-head league. I don't play head-to-head leagues. I know most of you play head-to-head leagues. You're going to just sit there and take a guy with an OPS of 440 for a month? People want to drop guys like Byron Buxton when they struggle. Caglianone's probably on waiver wires everywhere anyway. I'm always surprised when people want to make moves in head-to-head. But no, you're right, Mark. We need a lot more than 100 plate appearances. That's not at all the answer to this. I'm just talking about in a 2025 scenario, we've got to move on. If he picks things up in a couple weeks, we can reassess. But he is just a wasted roster spot right now, just completely wasted. He's useless. We'll say that he is better than this. He's more talented than this, and it's certainly reasonable to expect his second half or his next 100 plate appearances to be better than his first 100 plate appearances. Totally fair, but we're just not seeing much right now. Another youngster before we talk some FAAB. Let's talk about one more youngster, Brady House. Went 3 for 4 at an RBI and walked on Sunday. That's really good news. The third baseman of the Nationals. The expected numbers are better than the surface numbers with him, but he's hitting 250 with a 300 slugging percentage. It's another one of those scenarios where it's like, well, we have less work here. We have only 18 games of action. So again, we're looking at how many batted balls? 54. That's enough to kind of get a little bit of a sense. As an example, his exit velocity is higher. His hard hit rate is higher than Jack Caglianone. He has 1 barrel. That's not good. 1 barrel is really bad. But again, the expected numbers are a little bit better. The problem is even his expected numbers aren't even league average. He has controlled the strike zone decently. He's only got a 25% strikeout rate, so it's not terrible. His isolated power mark is 94. It's only half of Caglianone. It's even worse. Ooh, it's a fourth, the big league average. If I had to choose between these two, I would hold Caglianone over House. I think most people would do the same anyway. But yeah, that's a rough way to get things off to a start at a big league career, though. That happens all the time to rookies in the major league level. Let's talk some FAAB. Every Monday we talk FAAB. All the leagues that I go through, and we could discuss the players here. Again, I'm Ray Flowers. We're here every day on Fantasy Sports Daily at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Monday's the only day I go solo. The other 4 days of the week, Tuesday through Friday, we have guests come on about 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. Generally talk half baseball, half football the rest of the week. Here's the first league we're going to discuss, LABR, 15-team mixed league. You have to add players for $1, no free additions of players at any point. Rookies can't be added unless they were drafted and held on to. Rookies can't be added unless they're active. So, Colson Montgomery, we had to wait until he was activated this week to add, as an example. Okay, there you go. Look at the screen here. Trevor Rogers goes to $7. Failed bids, a bunch of failed bids. 3, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. Rogers pitched again very well yesterday. Can't trust him. But through a handful of starts, he's looked pretty good. Velocity was up from last year. Yesterday, down a little bit. But his fastball to his breaking ball, I think I saw it was like an 11-mile-an-hour gap, which is kind of ideal. That's kind of right in that sweet zone, 8 to 12 miles an hour, that you kind of want the difference between the two to help mess up the timing of batters. The velocity is up. We've talked about it here on the show. And again, in a 15-team league like this with all the guys that are hurt, get your guy. So RotoWire got him for $7. We've talked about him a lot for those of you out there. He's pitching effectively, and that's worth it, especially in head-to-head leagues and all that kind of stuff with Trevor Rogers. Emmet Sheehan for $7 as well. We talked about Emmet Sheehan. Look at all the failed bids, 4, 2, 2, 3, 3, 6. We talked about Sheehan earlier. If you missed that, rewind. You can always catch the show on demand at any point. You can go to fantasyguru.com, click the Elite Plus tab at the top of the page. You can type in Fantasy Sports Daily to wherever you consume podcasts at Fantasy Sports Daily. You can watch live, ask questions live, leave comments live, or watch it on demand at youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork, facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ, and on Twitter X @FantasyGuruSite. I would have gone Rogers over Sheehan here. I know, but as I said, I don't know how many starts Sheehan's going to make. Logan Evans was awarded for $6 to Prospect 361. Failed bid there of $1. Evans, we'll see how much run he gets over Hancock, right? I think Hancock, the team's basically made the determination of the Mariners, and they said to themselves, look, Hancock is just a guy right now. And it's disappointing because this stuff is backed up. There were higher expectations with Hancock. But the fact is that he's just a guy right now. So Evans could get a fair amount of run here. We've got Bryce Miller coming back from the elbow injury, and there's hope that he'll pitch in the second half, though it's not a guarantee. So Evans, not a bad pickup there in that same price range as well as the other guys. Ronnie Henriquez, who's probably the closer in Miami, if not the closer. He's one of the guys in the mix. He will get closing opportunities. He went for $5. You see a bunch of failed bids, 3, 4, 3, 1, 3, 3. So everyone kind of in that same zone, taking a shot at picking up some relievers. Zach Steinhorn gets Joe Boyle. We talked about Joe Boyle for those of you that missed it as well. Use the rewind feature. He went for $4 and the field bids 2223. And as we discussed, if they're going to continue, and that's what we're hearing, utilizing the way they did yesterday, Joe Boyle becomes a very interesting option because of the increased likelihood of picking up a victory. Giancarlo Stanton went for $4. I don't care. He was $2 the only other field bid. No one else cared either. Jordan Hicks got a save yesterday for the Red Sox. He went for $3. Fine to do that. As you can see there, Colson Montgomery awarded to me for $2. Jason Junk awarded to me for $2. And let's go. Colson Montgomery is the number one hitting prospect in the White Sox organization. He has had a rough season overall. I'm not expecting great things, but the fact is, in this labor league, I'm in 6th place, and I'm going to give it a shot, right? I don't have much money left. I'm down to like $20 or something of 100, so I'm getting down to it anyway. So just taking a shot there. Most of you probably don't want to take a shot. Again, Montgomery should have arrived last year, but injuries and poor performance last year, followed by injuries and poor performance this year, have really waylaid his development. And $2 out of 100 again. Even my expectations are very low. Jansen Junk, he's pitched very well this season. He's a 2-start pitcher this week. The first start's not a good one. It's today against Cincinnati, in Cincinnati. Then later in the week at Baltimore. But this is a league where, you got to get what you're going to get. And as we talked about these other guys, Junk went for $2, and these other guys are in that $6 or $7 zone. So relative to the cost, I got a much better bargain because I don't think there's an appreciable difference between Junk and these other guys. He's been effective here. He's 8 outings on the hill, 3.6 ERA, 1.12 WHIP. He's not a big strikeout guy. That first start today is rough, but 2-start week, so not a full-throated support piece there for me. But hey, got a little bit of support, so I went for it. Let me make a note here. I'm just doing something else. I apologize for that. Okay. Let's get back to talking some FAAB here. Colby Thomas for $2. Colby Thomas, how much the Athletics going to play him? We heard he was going to get called up and basically be kind of a pinch hitter. He started to play a little bit. So, the $2 bid for Dr. Roto, which, again, I think every bid Dr. Roto makes is $2. Brooks Baldwin for $1. Colin Ray for $1. And then Daniel Schneeman for $1 to Rudy Gamble. Raswell probably looking for some versatility defensively. Let's move on to the FSGA 14-team mixed league, $1,000 here. All of these leagues are 5x5 leagues. The FSGA and the labor leagues are traditional 5x5 setup. A little bit different with Tout Wars. We'll talk about that in a second. The FSGA is the one of these 3 leagues where you can add players for $1 on Monday. So we open the waiver wire Monday morning, and it's open for like 3 hours, and you can add players. Jerickson Profar, players that are rookies or suspended. Right? What do? He went for $169 to Sherpa, Fantasy Sherpa, $1 and $60 bids. I would assume most people, including myself, would have bid more, but just didn't have the opportunity. I'm down to like $90 out of 1,000. I got nothing left here in this league. This league is, let's pull it up. I'm in 9th place here out of these 14 teams. Not been good. Current injured list: Alex Bregman, Christian Moore, Gabriel Moreno, Hunter Dobbins, Tanner Houck, Davis Martin, Justin Martinez, AJ Puck, Zebby Matthews, Bryce Miller. So we all got the leagues at that. What are we going to do? And this is my league like that. But yeah, Profar obviously started off to a good start with the power bat. The Braves looking to make a run here before they decide whether to blow their team up or not. A lot of people think they're going to blow their team up. Ronnie Henriquez for 65 here. Failed bids of 14, 33, 28, 43. We just discussed him. Andrew Heaney for 42. Andrew Heaney's probably going to get traded. Maybe a change of scenario will help. But the interesting thing is with Heaney, we talked about him last week here on the show. The strikeout rate is way down. One thing you would get from him is a strikeout inning. We're not getting that this year with Andrew Heaney, and as a result, really tough to feel good about. Though again, as a streamer, he's totally fine in a deeper league like this. Colson Montgomery went for $41, so I got him for 2% of bid. In the other league, this league, he went for $4, 4% of the bid. As you can see there, everyone's kind of, we'll see, right? It bids 6, 15, 2, 8. Just, again, a year ago, much higher expectations in the short term. Though, to put it out there, Colson Montgomery, scouts have said that if this guy develops, there's a lot of similarities to Corey Seager. I'm not saying it's going to happen this year. In fact, Seager himself finally just started to hit the last couple of weeks. But Montgomery, top 25 prospect a couple years ago. Not there anymore, but still, you never know. It wouldn't be the craziest thing if he had a good second half. Joe Boyle went for 37. The next highest bids are 26 and 26. Carson Kelly for 28. Again, 2 catcher leagues. Here we go. Will Benson went for 14 with fail bids of 4 and 4. Benson continues to be a power speed threat. He continues to be somebody that has holes in his game, tons of strikeouts, platoon issues. But if you catch him on the right week, you get some really nice production. Mike Burrow went for $13 to Dr. Roto. Pretty solid addition there. Burrow is kind of in the Drew Rasmussen prior to the decision that Rays made. We're going to have him throw 78 pitches and get him out of their zone, right? So he's not going deep into games a bunch, but he's keeping the Pirates in most games. Not a bad addition at all for a $13 price point. I like that addition. Jacob Young for some speed for $12. Mr. Estrada for 10. That's a good pickup, not because he's going to continue his hot run, but because he's in a hot run right now. Estrada, coming back from injury, has really picked up his pace offensively. Let me see if I can get the numbers here for you quickly if I don't know how to type. He's hitting 289 his last 22 games with 15 RBIs. Did slow down last week. He was hitting 300 the last 2 weeks. Now he's hitting 280 the last 2 weeks. Slowed down over the weekend. But Estrada, the real key with him, because he's not going to do anything great, even though he's on the Rockies, the real key for him is he's going to run. He's got 1 steal in 28 games this year. He stole 2 bases last year. If he's not running, if he's not stealing those 20 bases he used to steal with the Giants, if he's stealing 4 or 5 bases, he's pretty useless because he doesn't do enough. But in a decent-ish groove right now, and again, this is a very low price point to be adding a player. Joey Cantillo moves into the rotation while the Luis Ortiz situation plays itself out. $6 to Mr. Ronas, Ezekiel Duran, $6 to Colton Stern and the Wolfman. And then I picked up Parker Meadows again. I had like $90 in this league. I can't get aggressive. I put a $4 bid on Parker Meadows and thought, well, we'll see. And he's been really blah. He's basically whiffed on my and a lot of people's expectations for him this season. But for $4, I'll take a chance that he finds his game at some point in the second half and gives me a shot at some solid production. And then finally, Dominic Canzone for $4, same price point as Parker Meadows. He's obviously been much better of late. I think he's got a less of a ceiling in the fantasy space, but he's been solid of late with some home runs here. He's got 5 home runs the last couple weeks. Is that right? Pull this up. I think it's 5 home runs the last 2 weeks. Something like that. 3 home runs the last 2 weeks, but he does have 6 the last month. It's 5 in that general time frame. By the way, he went 7 for 17 last week, did Canzone. Hitting 300 with 6 home runs last month. We talked about him last weekend, I think, or last week. Maybe it was Monday last week. Not a bad way to go. All right, finally, the Tout Wars 15-team mixed league. This league is a 5x5 league, but we replace victories with innings pitched. We replace saves with solds. And on the offensive side of thing, we replace average with on-base percentage. In this league, I'm currently in 3rd place. Ryan Boyer's got 135 points. He's killing it right now. Greg Jewett's at 119. I'm at 111.5. No one else has got 88. So the 3 of us have already started to distance ourselves from the rest. We'll see how that goes. Ryan Boyer's team, Ryan Boyer's first in home runs, first in RBIs, first in runs, first in ERA. Like, his worst score across the board is in the solds category where he's got a 9 out of 15. But every other category, all other 9, he's no worse than 3rd. His team is killing it right now. Why is his team killing it? Let's pull it up real quick. What the heck? Ryan Boyer, who I used to work with over at Fanball back in the day. Aaron Judge, well, there you go. Christian Yelich, the huge bounce back season. Pete Crow Armstrong, that goes a long way to why we're having success there. He also has Hunter Goodman, who's exploded. On the pitching side of things, Clay Holmes has been great. Zach Wheeler's been stupendous. Chris Bubik has taken that step. Max Fried has been stupendous. He made a decent addition in Mike Soroka. Yusei Kikuchi's been really good. So, it's a pretty good team. And when you can get a guy like Pete Armstrong for relatively, a 12th, 13th round player to perform like a first rounder, that helps an awful lot. Anyway, back to it here. You see highlighted for me the move I made this week. I'm in 3rd place in this league on the pitching side of things. I've been solid. I'm 11 points in whip, 12 points in strikeouts, 9 in innings pitched, and 6.5 in holds and saves. I kind of got a plan to handle that. We'll talk about that as we work through the year here. But the bottom line is Josh Young, who was my 3rd baseman, who I think Josh Young had played. I'd have to look up the stats. I've used him 2 weeks this year. Let's see if it comes up here real quickly as I take a look. Oh, he's no longer on my team, so I can't check. I'll have to check in a different spot. I think I only played him 2 weeks this year. I just haven't utilized him. I just haven't needed to with the way my team is built. If you look at my team, my current third baseman right now is Caleb Durbin, who, by the way, Caleb Durbin is killing it of late. For those people that haven't been paying attention, Nolan Arenado's been my primary third baseman this season. I just haven't played Josh Young. Anyway, dropped him to add Nick Martinez. We talked about what will the Reds do when Hunter Green is healthy. Will they keep Chase Burns, who was okay yesterday, but that fastball, I mean, it's just not. His secondary stuff right now for Burns is not getting it done. And so guys, even though there's tons of velocity with the fastball, they're fouling it off. They're making him work in counts. So he needs that secondary stuff to come forward. Whether Burns or Martinez stays in the rotation when Hunter Green returns is up in the air. So maybe this ends up being a situation where Martinez gets moved to the bullpen, in which case this doesn't do me any good because remember, this is not a wins league. This is an innings pitch league. But right now, Nick Martinez is lined up to start twice this week. As you can see that on the screen, both starts at home against Miami and Colorado. Certainly seem like 2 good outings for him. His last 5 trips to the hill, he's got a .98 whip. On the year, he's been very solid, not a big strikeout guy, but I'm looking for some innings pitched here and some solid ratios, which I think are very doable given the matchups this week. And again, this 2-start guy. Gabby, I'm making Sanchez, wrong Sanchez. Gary Sanchez goes to the injured list, and the Orioles still won't call up Sammy Basallo. I mean, what are they, 5 or 6 catchers in, like legitimately, and they won't call up Basallo? I don't know. I mean, if you're an Orioles fan, I feel really bad for you because clearly the team, in my opinion, is not trying to win right now. I don't know how else you can say it when you're going retread after retread after retread with the Orioles at the catch spot. You have Sammy Basallo, who's pretty good, who I'm pretty sure could hit major league pitching right now. Like, I'm pretty sure he could. This team now is going Jacob Stallings and Alex Jackson as their catching duo. They've got Maverick Hanley, Adley Rutschman, Gary Sanchez, and Chadwick Tromp on the injured list. They have 4 catchers on the injured list, and their big league roster is Alex Jackson and Jacob Stallings, and Basallo is still in the minors. Is that team trying to win? That's rough. Anyway, Danny Jansen was picked up by Zach Steinhorn, who had a need there. Mickey Moniak was picked up. Andrew Palante, who I actually bid on in this league, but I got Nick Martinez, so I didn't get Palante. Palante for 38, Moniak for 38, and Jansen for 18. Moniak is a fine short-term pickup, but they're not playing in Colorado. Are they playing at all in Colorado this week? Let me pull this up as we're talking. But note that with Moniak, a lot of his outlook is predicated upon staying with Colorado, and I don't think that's going to happen. I think they will trade him. He does get to hit in Fenway and then in Cincy, so they're not bad places to hit this week for Moniak. But again, I think he gets traded at some point. So, again, $38 is fine. It's totally, that's the same zone I went with Nick Martinez with the concerns he has. So totally fine bid there by Zach. Matt C. got Sean Burke for $3, losing Schwellenbach. That was rough. DVR got Canzone for $3. We just talked about how successful he has been. Schlittler, 22 for DVR for the Yankees there, giving it a go with the youngster. Liam Hicks for $1. Max Muncy of Oakland for $1. Mr. Fitz, who's probably back in the rotation now, for $5. But remember, we're not wins, we're innings pitched. For Kev, some uninspiring additions there, but what are you going to do? Schneider for 18. Schneider's looking like he's going to move up in the order a little bit with the Blue Jays here. So, Jason Junk, we just talked about, $4, 2-start guy this week. That's not a bad addition at $4. And then DVR got Eric Lauer, a really good addition this week for $2. I hate when a guy in my league does this because it's a really smart move. Facing the White Sox this week. Ray, why didn't you get him? Because let me verify. I think Lauer's my number 2 guy. Let's see here. Transaction logs. Number 2 guy on my list this week. My list was, Nick Martinez, Eric Lauer, Colin Ray, and Palante, who we talked about earlier. I had a $36 bid on Eric Lauer. So we'll see. Hopefully my 2 starts at Nick Martinez work because I love that outing or that matchup at least for Eric Lauer against the White Sox. So there it is, folks. There's the run. Let's see a question here. We have David P. say, play Zach Gallen versus the Padres. The last start was good. I think in the case of Gallen, it's really tough because anywhere you look at this point, and we did this last week on the show, anywhere you look at this point, nothing stands out with Gallen. Like everything really basically looks league average. And the stuff, if you look at the stuff metrics, they're all below average. Like it's just not, he's an average pitcher right now. I would say it this way. In a roto league, even a head-to-head league, in today's matchup, we have a bunch of matchups today. It's like, 10 games or whatever. I think he's bottom quarter, like he's SP 15 today. What kind of setup are you in, Dave? Are you in a head-to-head? Are you in a roto? What categories are you looking for? I would say he's a passable start today. I do know that if I had him on my roster, I would not be stoked or excited about using him. I can't come up with a reason that says you got to start him. I know that I'll be writing raised plays over at fantasyguru.com, my DFS article, getting after it here as soon as the show is over. I already started putting together my pitchers for the day. Zach Gallen is not a guy that's on my pitcher list to target for DFS today. I think that at the end of the day, I would put him on let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, I put him at a 6.5 today, 6.5, 7. So I think your format determines what that means to you. Hopefully that helps at least a little bit, Dave. When you ask these questions, just in the future, if anyone asks a question like this, it really helps to get more detail. I know I can't write a paragraph here. I get it. But a little more detail, because it's like I feel bad not being able to specifically say yes or no, but I answered the question the best I could. Ray, what's your SiriusXM schedule moving forward? When can we hear you? I mentioned that earlier today on the show, Kyle. I appreciate you asking. Thank you. My SiriusXM schedule for now is I'm on Wednesdays with Jeff. And that's I'm here with you guys 4 days a week. I'm with Jeff 1 day a week. The show, Elite Sports Game Time, is now on hiatus. We'll return next year. But for now, I'm on with Jeff Wednesdays. Things are different with Sirius than they have been. I'm still glad to be on the channel. We talked about this last week, the 15-year anniversary of the channel. I've been there since day one, so it's really nice. But I don't have a specific show anymore. I'm on with Jeff on Wednesdays. That can always change. I usually haven't solidified this, but I usually answer the stardom situms for SiriusXM on Twitter X. I've done that for, I don't know, over a decade. So I assume that'll happen again. But in terms of me being on air, just the Wednesdays on the Elite Sports Show with Jeff Mans. That, remember, time change there, 2 to 5 Eastern, Monday through Friday, 2 to 5 Eastern. So I'll be on with Jeff 2 to 5 every Wednesday. And thanks for asking, Kyle. I appreciate it. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching the show today. Tell a friend. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner over at fantasyguru.com. Get signed up for the baseball product. Get signed up for the football product. The baseball product is one product. All the seasonal, all the DFS, all the wagering, everything baseball, all of it. Everything we do. You get access to all of it the rest of the season if you sign up for the baseball package. Click the subscribe tab in the top right corner. There you see on the screen, for those of you playing fantasy football, the football package is rocking and rolling. We've got in the football package, and again, it's full season. It's not just preseason. PPR, non-PPR, dynasty. These are rankings, by the way. PPR, non-PPR, dynasty, rookie, best ball, IDP. I'm sure I'm leaving stuff out. Tons of rankings. As you can see that on the screen, if you sign up, if you've never signed up for the best ball tournament over at Drafters, use the following link, drafters.com/refer/elite. Drafters.com/refer/elite. If you do that, you never signed up there before, you get 100% bonus match up to $500. So if you put $200 in, they'll give you $200 to spend. For those of you that have signed up at Drafters previously, you get a reload bonus. Use the promo code Elite Reload for that. And as I just said, we have best ball rankings, so we can help you out, Tyler Beaker, with a series of articles specifically geared toward this Drafters.com tournament. So hopefully that helps, and everyone gets involved and has some fun with us over at fantasyguru.com. So I'll be back tomorrow at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I'll be visiting with, it's a Tuesday, so Armando Marsal. We'll open a pack of cards. We didn't do that last week. We'll do it this week. I think he's got like 2025 tops or something like that. So we'll open that at the end of the show. We'll also talk football with him as well. Don't forget to go to fantasyguru.com. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner and become part of the largest active community in fantasy sports. I'll see you all again tomorrow. I'm Ray Flowers. Have a great day. This has been Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com.